when we started this podcast a year ago, when we were first talking about it, traveling to like other places wasn't really a thing. And this season we traveled to LA, right? We did our first sort of trip, business trip, LFO boys for the weekend in Los Angeles, which was super dope. Shout out to Frank, shout out to Davin, right? Shout out to Brandon as well for coming on the show. But going, traveling, preparing, the research that we put in behind that, it couldn't have gone any better from a podcast standpoint. We had a lot of fun too, getting to know LA. Yeah. I'm still an East Coast guy. It's the Beast Coast. LA is cool. Not really my cup of tea. I think it's Mike's because he likes.
It's cool for the weekend though. I'm still Mr. Miami, man.
Mr. Miami. You have to remember because Mike is a surfer from Washington Heights, which I've never met before in my life. If there's another surfer from Washington Heights, please raise your hands because Mike might be the only one. But we went to LA, we got there, and I remember it wasn't without any disagreement like we talked about on a earlier episode. And I think it wasn't about us not wanting to travel. I think it was just how are we going to make this happen?
Do it? How are we going to make it? How are we going to get the bang for our buck? Yeah. Because we're definitely investing in this. So making sure like, all right, we're going to get the people that we want. No one's going to back out on us. The studio almost backed out on us.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Just making sure things line up.
Yeah. And I think, when I sit down and I think about that trip and I think about how much of a success it was and to be able to connect with different people who we would never have come across had it not been because of the podcast. I think those were one of the most powerful messages because you thought one thing about Davin and you thought one thing about maybe Frank and Brandon. And then when you sit down, talk to them, have the on-air stuff and the behind-the-scenes conversations, you're like, wow, I don't know anything about this person. Yeah. Right? The things they've been through, the things they go through currently, the things they go through currently, right? And it's sort of like never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never judge a book by its cover. You need to sit down, read the book.
Or sometimes, from the outside, you think like, hey, they're out of there. It's over. Their journey's done. They made it. And you're like, oh, no, they're still in the journey. Yeah. Maybe a different level, but the journey's still there. The journey's
still there. And I think that sometimes in their minds, they are maybe satisfied but not content, right? And we're looking at it like, wow, we want to get there. And we know that when we get there, we're going to think like the same thing because there's going to be people behind us saying, oh, I want to get to where you're at. And they're going to be like, well, I remember where you were at one point, right? And it's sort of like always staying humble, right? It's always that humility that you need to have throughout the process. No one's going to give us anything. Yeah. We're going to have to go out there and take it. Right, that's been made very, very apparent. And speaking of taking, one thing I want to take is respect from people because you know what? I'm going to talk a little bit of here. We've been a little disrespected. We have been disrespected a little bit. I remember when we first started this, everyone's like, "Oh, that's cute. You want to do a podcast." And then when we first started, they're like, "All right, the quality's there." So nobody could talk. Nobody could talk about the quality.
They can't deny it.
These guys are all right. They're shining. All right, cool. They're whatever. Oh, can they keep it going after season 1? Well, we did. We have season 2 now. Yeah. And we just got renewed for season 3. So we're coming back. We're coming back.
Bigger, better.